Today I'm speaking to my good friend, Bimbola Kolawole. Now, Bimbola, we all know that energy is key for development everywhere, and Africa is no different. So I wanted to hear from you some of your thoughts about the case for energy transition in the continent.
Hi, Fabio. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, energy transition has been a big conversation globally, essentially, basically moving from our current energy source and going into the cleaner types of energy source, i.e. Solar energy, hydro energy, and wind, all classified as renewable energy. Globally, it's been, especially in Europe, has been championed in such a way that prior to 2020, it was the talk of the day. But of course, due to the current global pandemic, this has probably taken a back step. Now, to buttress my point on the African front, basically with Africa, the current source of energy has been wood, biomass, and of course, for oil producing nations, a little bit of fossil fuel. Right. And said the importance of moving away from these traditional sources of energy into cleaner energy is beginning to be highly important. And it's something that the African countries, especially sub-Saharan Africa, has started to look into in full force. And I expect this to take a foothold post-COVID-19.
Right. Actually, you bring up a very interesting point. A lot of people think that when we talk about energy transition, automatically they think that we're trying to make a case to get away from oil. And when we talk about Africa, we have other types of energy that is highly polluted and bad for the environment, bad for the health. So very, very good point. Thank you for that. But obviously, not every African country will experience the effects or the rhythm of this transition equally.
Yeah.
Are there any countries that you could highlight just to illustrate how this process could possibly develop in Africa?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to use Nigeria as an example, in as much as I would also like to look at other countries, maybe Zambia or maybe even Malawi. But with Nigeria being an oil-producing country, it's currently number 13 in the world. Nigeria has its energy source on 83% on traditional wood and biomass. For an oil-producing nation to have 83% of its energy source on wood and biomass, that is quite interesting. 16% actually is on fossil fuel. So we're looking at coal, oil and gas, and of course, and then we look at not 1%, which then goes into hydro. So it's quite interesting in that front. Now, when you now look at the transition of that, moving away from that to a cleaner energy, again, which would be more of gas right now on the African context, or well, in the Nigerian context, to be fair, because there's a whole lot of gas and that is now being converted into use, and it's being supplied into the power grid by the gas producing companies. You would want to see that clean source of energy being transmitted and being consumed domestically. Also, most importantly, is actually that transition to renewable energies, using more of solar, abundant supply of sun in the continent, again, in Nigeria, abundant supply of sun. So it now translates to educating rural Nigeria, urban Nigeria, the importance of using solar power. With the right steps in the right direction, I think we can be off to something in Nigeria in that regard.
Right, it's incredible that Nigeria only uses 16% of its energy from fossil fuel. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people don't know that. Now, I'm also interested in hearing from you, how do you see the current crisis impacting the development of this transition? I mean, everyone realizes that the situation we're living, although not necessarily is a speeding technology, it is certainly pushing the implementation of infrastructure on data and broadband. Do you think you might see the same sort of effect for the energy sector in Africa?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look, if we look at, again, I would like to use Nigeria as an example. In early 2000, there was a surge and a boom of development on the telecommunications side. So, and this was basically because the right infrastructure was being put in place, and also it shows you that the need of telephony, mobile communication became very important. Now, when you marry that together with clean energy, I think it's going to be amazing. Look, if the countries, the African countries, again with Nigeria, if we start to look from an outside in perspective, now not inside out, but outside in, looking at what has worked anywhere else and trying to now see how that can be implemented in a very efficient manner, and that is basically puts things in place to start to make use of solar panels. Again, I mentioned about education earlier on, educating the people about that. I think the economic and social development that would be experienced in a country like Nigeria, it would be unprecedented. So that gives us that view that it can be done. Energy transition would definitely be possible. It may take time depending on all the countries within the continent, but it is possible. And also we're looking at our health. It's a whole lot better than the traditional biomass that we've been using. And we've seen the effects of that, with people, especially in the rural areas, and how it affects, the health as well as development in totality.
Wow, that's great. I mean, certainly a lot of infrastructure opportunities going forward. Now, Bimbola, thank you very much. This is certainly a very positive insight at a time that not everything we hear gives us something to look forward to. I'm with you. I think the so-called new reality will bring some changes for a better Africa. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today, and I'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Fabio. I can't wait for this situation to be over so that we can go back into our brainstorming sessions over coffee in South Bank. Take good care.
Take care.